The mysterious watch. In the heart of London, nestled amongst quaint, antique shops and bustling cafes, lay the Pendulum, an enigmatic watch shop known only to a select few. Its facade bore no signboard, but a single, grand clock which stood still, its hands frozen at 12. Lena, a young journalist with a penchant for uncovering hidden stories, had heard murmurs of the Pendulum during her late-night assignments at nearby pubs. Intrigued, she decided to delve into its mysteries. One cloudy morning, she stepped into the shop, its bell ringing softly. The interior was dim, lit by vintage lamps, and the air bore a musty, metallic scent. Walls were lined with timepieces of every kind, from sundials to hourglasses. But what caught her eye was a solitary, ornate watch displayed in the center. Crafted with gold and adorned with sapphire stones, it looked ancient yet untouched by time. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with striking blue eyes resembling the watch's stones, approached her. "Ah, you've found the heart of this shop," he whispered, his voice soft as velvet. Curious, Lena asked, "What's its story?" A deep sigh escaped the old man. "This watch," he began, "was crafted centuries ago by a clockmaker who possessed the knowledge of intertwining time's fabric. Legend says that it has the power to take its bearer back to any moment in their past." Lena, though skeptical, was spellbound. "Has anyone ever used it?" The shopkeeper leaned in. "A few tried, but time is not a toy. They faced consequences. Some were trapped in moments they regretted, while others lost their way back." Sensing a deeper connection, Lena gently probed. "And you?" His eyes glistened. "I too was tempted, years ago, to revisit a moment. A fleeting instant when life was simpler, and love was young. But I realized that going back wasn't the answer. Embracing the present was." Lena felt an overwhelming urge to experience the watch's power. Despite the warnings, she wore it, and the world around her blurred. She found herself back in her teenage room, reliving the day she decided to leave her family home for her career. The pain, the guilt, the love, all resurfaced. Tears streamed down her face as she lived the heart-wrenching goodbyes once more. But this time, she saw the pride in her mother's eyes and felt the unwavering support of her father, which she had missed in her youthful rush. Suddenly, she was back in the Pendulum, the weight of the watch heavy on her wrist. The shopkeeper, understanding her journey, softly said, "Time travel isn't about changing the past, but understanding and accepting it." Lena, transformed by her experience, realized that the real magic wasn't in the watch, but in the perspectives it offered. She left the shop, leaving behind a story, not of a mysterious watch but of life's intricate tapestry and the acceptance of time's relentless march forward. Destruction. In the small coastal town of Elmsworth, the sea was both a blessing and a curse. Locals reaped its bounty, living off fishing and the tourists it attracted. But the sea, with its vastness and unpredictability, also held a looming threat. Eleanor had lived in Elmsworth all her life. She had seen many storms, but none compared to what the townsfolk referred to simply as the event. A storm so fierce, it felt like the heavens and earth had waged war. It started as a whisper, an undercurrent of anxiety as weather reports hinted at an approaching tempest. Eleanor, a marine biologist, understood the implications better than most. Using her knowledge, she tried warning the town council of the impending threat, urging them to evacuate, but her concerns were dismissed. After all, Elmsworth had weathered many storms. As the sky darkened and the sea grew restless, Eleanor's apprehensions turned into a haunting realization. The sea receded eerily, pulling away from the shore, leaving fish flopping in the wet sand, and revealing hidden treasures of the deep. Children played in the newfound land, their laughter echoing eerily, while adults watched in awe. But Eleanor knew that nature's retreat was a foreboding sign. The tsunami was coming. When the wave struck, it did so with a fury and might that left nothing in its wake. Buildings crumbled like sandcastles, and the streets turned into turbulent rivers. Screams and cries for help were drowned out by the roaring water. Eleanor clung to a lamppost, her every ounce of strength focused on survival. The next morning, Elmsworth was unrecognizable. The beautiful coastal town had been replaced by a landscape of debris, mud, and shattered lives. Eleanor, drenched and shaken, treaded through the ruins, helping rescue teams find survivors. In the aftermath, as the town grieved and took stock, Eleanor's warnings became the focal point of many discussions. Regret was a common sentiment. Why hadn't they listened? Why had they underestimated nature's fury? But blame and regret weren't productive. Instead, the community united, focusing on rebuilding and supporting one another. Eleanor's expertise became invaluable. She spearheaded efforts to construct barriers, design early warning systems, and educate the community. Years later, Elmsworth stood again, a testament to human resilience. But it bore the scars of the event as a constant reminder. A large memorial by the beach commemorated those lost, with an inscription, "In memory of those we lost," and as a reminder of the respect we owe to nature. The destruction had taught Elmsworth a harsh lesson, but in its wake, it had also sown seeds of unity, resilience, and respect for the forces beyond human control. My little niece. In the backdrop of the sprawling city of Manchester, with its regal, Gothic buildings and bustling markets, my world changed one fateful winter evening. The birth of my little niece, Amelia, was a turning point that added a vibrant splash of color to the monotone of my life. I was an established journalist, having reported from various corners of the globe. From war zones in the Middle East to famine-stricken regions in Africa, I had seen the best and worst of humanity. But nothing had prepared me for the overwhelming flood of emotions I felt when I held Amelia in my arms for the first time. Her tiny fingers clutched mine. Her wide azure eyes, a mirror to the sky above, gazed at me with innocent wonder. For someone who had always championed logic over emotions, the sudden surge of protectiveness and love I felt for this tiny being was disorienting. Each weekend, I'd trade my corporate apartment in the heart of the city for my sister's cozy suburban home. The city's cacophonous symphony was replaced by Amelia's coos and gurgles, and the blinding city lights gave way to the soft glow of fairy lights in her nursery. As months turned into years, our bond deepened. I began penning stories just for Amelia, tales of brave princesses and adventures in far-off lands. She became my muse. I realized that amidst the tragedies I reported, Amelia's innocence and joy provided a balance, ensuring I didn't lose faith in the inherent goodness of the world. Her laughter became my respite. The tales of her escapades at the kindergarten, of the time she tried to befriend a squirrel, or her innocent queries about the world, often formed the highlight of my day. One evening, as I narrated a particularly distressing account of a refugee crisis, Amelia, now 6, listened intently, her brow furrowed in concern. Later that night, she handed me a drawing. It depicted a sun casting its golden glow over a green meadow, where children of diverse backgrounds played. It's a world where everyone's happy. Can you make this real, Uncle? She asked, her voice tinged with hope. Amelia's simple gesture made me reevaluate my role as a journalist. While it was essential to report the harsh realities, it was equally important to highlight stories of hope, resilience, and unity. Inspired, I began a series focusing on individuals making a difference, turning the spotlight on unsung heroes. Years later, Amelia confessed that my tales of humanity's indomitable spirit had influenced her decision to pursue human rights law. The little girl who once dreamed of a world filled with joy was now actively striving to make it a reality. In Amelia, I discovered the profound impact a single soul could have on one's perspective. She taught me to view the world not just through the lens of a seasoned journalist, but through the hopeful eyes of a child who believes in the possibility of a better tomorrow.